Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Gareth Ainsworth. Come on, son. Come on. Let's go. Enough now. Right. He is the new QPR manager. A lot of you people asking me to do a video on this. So I'm going to shoot from the hip and tell you how I feel about it. And give you the truth here. Because I think some people are wary. I think if you think of how QPR have behaved over the last few years, certainly the desire has been to play pretty football, play good football, build up players that you can then sell because they're technically of a decent level, and that was the best way for us to get out of the Premier League or give ourselves a chance to do that. And that's something that generally I totally agree with. Gareth Ainsworth is a manager who, for those of you who don't know, Gareth Ainsworth played a lot of games for QPR. He was a right winger for us in a season where we got promoted. He was fantastic for us, and he was all heart. And he's actually a right winger that, because often this is the thing, right? When you have a new manager, but he's someone who was a player for you, you inevitably kind of put in the sort of personality of the player as the manager, right? And that's actually something that I think does align with Gareth Ainsworth. So many Gareths in my life. And Gareth Ainsworth, just to put it into context, it was at a time where you would, generally from goal kicks, you would hit the fullback because he was the smallest player and then just like munch him in the air. And that's what we would do. And Gareth Ainsworth, there's not many players like him really anymore. He didn't mess about. He got the ball, he pushed it down the line, and you knew you were in for a battle. He's probably stronger than you, and he was going to get a cross in, or he was going to get a throw on or a corner. And he was effective. And he gave everything. So much so that Gareth Ainsworth tried to run off a broken leg. I saw it at Loftus Road. He tried to sort of hobble it off. That's Gareth Ainsworth. A broken leg. So great character as well. He was a sort of lead singer in a little like band in his own time. Obviously had the long hair. Was known as the Wild Thing. When he scored, he'd do that and celebrate. That's him playing guitar. That's not anything else. I don't know what that would be. Scratching his nut. Whatever. And look, we liked him. And he was within a successful era. So it's dangerous to come back. And Gareth Ainsworth, in his interview, said that himself, that some people are going, oh, don't, because you'll sort of taint your legacy. And generally, you know, the reason why a manager will leave a club is because it's not going well. And hopefully that doesn't occur with him. But the danger is that he was, as I say, an effective footballer. He then went to Wycombe. He's been at Wycombe. And I know, like, I got a message from Miles, who's one of the OGs, who's a big Wycombe fan, and he's gutted, absolutely gutted. And the reason he's gutted is because of not the style of play, which I think we'll get into that. It wasn't about the style of play, it's about the man himself, because he was able to, and again, these are using his words from his first interview for QPR, he is such a genuine guy and is such a leader of men, and he feels like that's his main skill. And I went down to the training ground to do an interview at Wycombe with Sam Vokes a year ago. And there's no reason why Sam Vokes should have been going to Wycombe, but he wanted to go there because he wanted to work with Gareth Ainsworth because he's a great leader of men. And Wycombe are a League Two club in terms of size, but they punch above their weight and get themselves in the Championship because of Gareth Ainsworth, because of his charisma, because of his ability to instill inspiration and a lack of fear and a clear plan to a group of players. And also just to convince players to sort of come down and play for him or to continue to play, a whole host of reasons. But his stock at Wycombe is so high because he also understands that connection between the fans and the club and the manager. It's so clearly, and it's one where it probably wound up a few other managers. But not the Wycombe fans. The Wycombe fans absolutely adore this guy. And we, as QPR fans, adore the player. We've always been sort of tempted by getting him in. But the thing that was stopping us, I think, was always the style of play. Now, the style of play, some would call it ugly. Others would call it direct. I think the spin I'm going to chuck on it is much like him as a player. And again, another line from his interviews. He says you have to cut your cloth accordingly. And you are being naive if, when you're trying to punch above your weight, you don't utilise the most easy advantage that you can have, which is physical attributes, by being sort of bigger and stronger. That is something that is there to you and is something that's, not in short supply to a point. So what we will find out here, I think there's no way that he will be playing the tippy-tappy football that QPR have played. But in terms of what often happens when a manager leaves is you're looking for the things that club or team in particular doesn't have. And so my concern is, of course, that Gareth Ainsworth, in terms of what we know, that's not a Gareth Ainsworth squad. It doesn't have size up front. It doesn't have size generally at all. And it has a lot of sort of tippy-tappy players. Tippy-tappy players that I think Gareth Ainsworth, as a Wycombe manager, would be going, right, boys, they don't want this. They'll quit. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he looks to change this up here. But the word I keep coming back to with him, or I hope it is that he's effective. He literally affects people's minds and souls in terms of getting that bit extra out of them. Listen to any player talk about him. They speak incredibly highly. He's honest. He's fair. He has expectations. He brings people together to make the collective better. And he creates that little bit of romance around it. And he says the right things, And I think in terms of the gaps of Neil Critchley, you've got the guy with the charisma in Bill, and obviously that ability to play with the squad that he wanted there. That's why we had that squad. Neil Critchley's, known as a good coach, but didn't have the ability to sort of bind or inspire those players clearly. And Gareth Ainsworth is a person who desperately wants to be there, desperately wants to succeed, allows us to kind of see QPR as a big club, as the big opportunity, because he's going from Wycombe to QPR, and he says himself, there's only a couple of jobs that I would ever take away from Wycombe. And that all feels good. And in terms of being effective, I think that's what he's going to come in to do. Can he get better as a coach, or can he delegate to allow the style of play to be not just effective, but to fit this group of players? Because he could crash and burn, and he could be out of his depth in terms of trying to sort of install that kind of style of play to a group of players that just don't fit it. And so has he got his plan B? Can he find different ways of getting the best out of, Tim Bunum and Ilias Chair? And is there going to be a change in play in terms of the forward players? Lyndon Dykes isn't back. Sinclair Armstrong is incredibly raw. Effective again as well, so it might be one that Gareth Ainsworth wants, but technically has been poor in my opinion. Obviously so young. Chris Martin, is that an Ainsworth player? Will he be able to get the best out of him? There's a lot of questions here, but I don't think you should be fearful of allowing a really good man manager the opportunity to be with better players, and that's what he gets here. It's just, can he, the things that have worked in terms of inspiring those players, those sort of lost souls that he would bring in at Wycombe a lot of the time, is that something he can do with a sort of quite a young squad and a lot of players who I get the impression that they kind of feel like they could be better, do better, be at a better place. So and they're kind of looking outward, and actually they need to look right in front of them and get themselves some points. I think he'll keep us up. I think it'll be fine. I do have reservations on if he can transfer it across. But what I don't have reservations on is that I think Loftus Road will be in a much better place in terms of our desire and energy to get behind the manager. I think it'll be bouncing at the weekend, which it hasn't been bouncing for some time with our home form. And I don't have to concern myself with his intentions, his desire to sort of jump off and go somewhere else, and the fact that he's not going to be doing absolutely everything in his power, and his team will be doing the exact same thing, and he'll do it in a way that's fair. And I like all of that. So this, as an appointment, isn't your cookie cutter, okay, he's a coach at a big club, get him in and we can sort of play through the lines. No, it's not that. He's not been in the Premier League. He's not been in those circles. But maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's a reality check that we need as a club to go, okay, let's get our stuff together here. Let's understand what we are, who we are. And if everyone's going at 100%, we need to go that tiny bit more, which I know is not possible by definition. But you know what I mean? I think at the moment, it feels like they're giving 85%. It feels like they're phoning it in a little bit. And I don't think they mean to do that. And I remember Ben Foster saying this. But sometimes it just it's not in you. And I think of any manager that we could get in right now, Gareth Ainsworth is the personality and the human being that I would trust to get that reaction, to get them smiling, to get them wanting to run through brick walls. And because I think that is the only thing between us and stopping the rot and winning some games, because there's clearly so much talent there. Maybe there's not the depth, maybe there's not, and obviously we've had problems with injuries. But there's certain players like there's a player in George Thomas who's just gone, and it felt like he wasn't really up to it. But you do actually wonder if Gareth Ainsworth was there, is he a kind of Gareth Ainsworth player? Again, this is the thing that could jar, because it could be one where what is Gareth Ainsworth and his success as QPR manager, is that going to be let down by the fact that he hasn't got the personalities that he needs? Whereas at Wycombe, at a lower level of football, that is the very basic element that you need to even play at League 1, League 2 level. So he kind of had some of those guys together. At this level, he might have some players with the talent, but not the grit. Maybe that's unfair. And again, we'll see. But I love Gareth Ainsworth. He is honestly one of my heroes. And I would never be concerned about his desire, and actually, really importantly, his humility, but also his ambition to go, and like that underdog spirit of like, I don't care. I don't care who you are or what you've done. We're QPR. I know that sounds ridiculous, but we need that. We need someone to provide that. And people will turn their nose up and go, oh, they're just giving the fans what they want. You need to get us on side here. That connection is so crucial. So crucial. And there are a lot of fans that just they are defined in their support by, are we winning or losing? If we're losing, everyone's terrible people. If we're winning, they're all fantastic and we've got our Rangers back. It doesn't work like that. You support the club kind of regardless. Yes, you got to be aware of where it's going. And Gareth Ainsworth, again, if you want to have a bit of snobbery about it, maybe he's not right. But actually, 500 odd games as a manager, promotions, taking a club to a place that it's never been, that's pretty impressive. And I think that comes from all the little elements that make him him. So Gareth, we're behind you. We believe in you. Do you, man. Do you. And I think we'll certainly be fine this season. And I don't know where you can take us, but you certainly deserve an opportunity to have a go if everyone else seems to be getting a go. So, yeah, we love you, Gareth. Best of luck. Come at you, us.